My mom is so wonderful. First of all, let me just say she supported my art since day one and always had the best materials for me and art class and all of that. But she comes over and I made this piece and it's this artichoke and there's this queen bee and it's a very graphic, it's like Art Deco stylistic type piece. And she sees it on my desk and she's like, Mattie, this is so beautiful. She's looking at it and she's like, honey, did you know that the queen bee doesn't leave the nest? And I was like, okay, Mom. My mom says that when I was like very little, like maybe 1.5, she had cut up all these little pieces of paper and put them on the table. We were sitting there as kids and she said I arranged them in such a way that she was like, oh my God, this, like my daughter is gonna be an artist. I didn't have a lot of money to spend on college, so I was like, I'm gonna go to the community college in Santa Fe. And so I started going there. I moved there after high school and I enjoyed all my art classes so much in college. But at the same time, I was working with artists and they were like, Mattie, you don't want to be like art history. You don't want to be an art teacher. You're not even really sure you want to be in a gallery. Maybe art, like maybe you don't need a degree to be doing what you want to do. And they were exactly right. I grew up in rural Maine, sort of the breadbasket Palermo, full of like blueberry fields. And I was homeschooled, and a lot of our, I wasn't homeschooled for religious reasons. My mom, there just like was a terrible school in Palermo, and my mom thought, why not homeschool them? They can be outside. And that's like what we did as kids. We were outside like 90% of the time. My biggest inspiration to create art is, to kind of like highlight this connection we have to nature and to animals and to just the natural world. Wild space and wild animals is something that's disappearing so fast. I get most of my ideas when I'm running, actually. But some of the pieces, it's like pulling teeth. It's really hard because you're like, I want these things to fit together, and they don't. And no piece of art ever comes out exactly how you imagined it would. Some pieces, I start with like maybe a fraction of the idea, and it just totally flows and it comes together. I just saw pictures of this tree online. I have not seen it in person, and I don't know if you can see it in person. I think they keep it pretty hidden because it's a very valuable, very precious tree. It's 5,000 years old. And it sort of hid this woman in the bark of the tree. It inspired me. I'd like to do a series actually of the oldest trees on Earth, and to be continued. You just have to leave the world a little more beautiful than it was before. And I think that like as humans we use a lot, we take a lot and we use a lot, and each and every person, and the idea of like giving back is really important to whatever capacity you can, I guess. I started doing pen and ink and I was like, man, I really love this medium. And so the Mill Hill Inn in Bethel, Maine, they did like Artist of the Month at the time. And so we had like, my sisters catered it. There were musicians, and I sold every piece at that show. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Henry, hi. You are part of that decision. I got pregnant. And the pandemic happened right at the same time. And I was working as a chef at Cafe de Coco in Bethel for their gentle dining series. It was a really beautiful dinner series they do. And then when the pandemic happened, it's like, we can't possibly... we can't possibly keep doing this because people sit family style, they share food. no one was gonna go for it. And so I was like, that's out the window. And I was already doing more and more art. Like art was just sort of taking over my life more and more. So I was like, I'm just gonna jump right in, and it was the best thing I could have possibly done, because now I have no time for anything but art. Like it's like takes up all of my time other than Henry. So I used to teach art class and to kids, and I would always say like, you're your own worst enemy when it comes to art and criticism. Like before anyone else, it's you, and just not to be hard on yourself, like to allow yourself the freedom to explore and the freedom to like make something terrible. And you know, and that's how you do it. That's how you succeed, I think. Like even now, I'll make art that I think is horrible and it's really upsetting. I have to put it in a closet, not look at it for like a week. And then maybe it's okay when it comes out, maybe it's not. But it's like, that's just part of the process. As I've been doing it, and like the success from it is sort of like each little success, I'm always like taken aback. Even now, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing so good. Like I just like keep like pinching myself, be like, this is real. And it's awesome. How do you get seen as an artist? And, or for anything really, is how do you get yourself out there? At first, I was really proactive about trying to gain accounts of businesses in Maine. And I had no idea what I was doing as far as price point went, or like what people would want. And I just like flew by the seat of my pants, and I walked into businesses and I was like, hey, I'm an artist. This is what I do. This is what I charge. And I heard no a lot. And I just didn't really know what I was doing. And I think in retrospect, it was a good thing. I think it's a really good thing to hear no and to be let down, because now when I hear no, or like the art's not right for whatever reason, it doesn't even hurt. It's just like, that makes sense and that's okay. But at like in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, they don't like my, like, you know, like you feel crushed. And now when I go around and like try to get accounts, I have a better price point. I just walk into a store. It's my favorite way to do it, to walk in, to meet someone face to face, and to like talk about what I do and whether it would fit in their, you know, their shop. Honestly, the excitement is just like working on art is like what I want to do every day. It's just having the time to be able to do it. And there's just never enough time. To be successful, you have to have some sort of schedule. And right now, because of Henry, that's like every moment that I'm not with Henry, I'm like basically working. So, and even with him, like he'll come with me to do my cart, like my restocks of like stores. So I'll like drive around with him, and yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. A lot of people are like, how long does it take you to do a piece of art? I'm like, well, it just depends on the piece. And honestly, if you love doing something, you're not like, how long has it been? You know, I never look at the clock. But for instance, like this piece that I'm almost done with took a really long time. It's, you know, a winter scene with snow and all these little snowflakes, you know, it's watercolor. I had to go over them twice around each little dot on this piece of paper. And that was like very, very time consuming and kind of like hard after a while. I was like, this is monotonous. And then I started doing the tree, like all these little lines on the tree. And I was kind of like, man, I just love the pen. Like it really is my tool. Like I just love ink and pen. I never liked abstract art, really, until I had a friend who brought me to the Clifford Stills Museum in Colorado. And Clifford Stills is this guy who could draw a face. There were all these pencil sketches he did of people that were so spot on and beautiful. Like he just had an eye for like exact, like he could draw you exactly as you are. And he did that for a while, and then he was like, I don't like this actually. And he started creating these abstract pieces that were like huge. In the museum, they would take up like an entire wall, and you'd stand in front of these pieces of art, and the whole art would take you in. It was like being in the art. And I absolutely loved it. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I understand exactly abstract art, but I think I really like it. It's really hard once you've put yourself in a style to get out of that style, especially if you have like a following for that. It's like, if I suddenly did abstract art, people would be like, wait a second, I'm not down with this. I think they would be sort of against it. I think if I didn't narrow my box down, it's like I could create so many different things, but people want you to be in a box. Isn't that weird?